In the summer of 1940, as Nazi Germany's Luftwaffe launched relentless aerial assaults against Great Britain, a then-nascent technology known as radar proved pivotal. The Chain Home System, a network of coastal radar stations, allowed the Royal Air Force to detect incoming bombers from hundreds of miles away, enabling a numerically inferior force to effectively counter a much larger threat and fundamentally altering the calculus of air defense. It was a moment when ingenuity and cost-effective innovation turned the tide against overwhelming odds. Today, a similar, profound shift is unfolding in the skies above Ukraine, prompting a critical question that defense strategists worldwide are now grappling with. Which side is actually winning this technological arms race right now? On April 4th, 2026, something happened above the skies of Ukraine that defense analysts are still processing. A single pilot, sitting hundreds of kilometers behind the front line in a safe, undisclosed location, guided a small interceptor drone through complex airspace and destroyed 2 incoming Russian Shahed drones. Not from 20 kilometers away, not from 50, but from 500 kilometers, half 1,000 kilometers. A distance so extreme that when the Bulava drone unit published the footage on their official channels, military aviation experts had to read the report twice just to believe it. It was the first time in recorded military history that a drone interceptor had been controlled and operated at that range to successfully destroy aerial targets. And the pilot who did it? He goes by the call sign Hulk. He is not a fighter jet ace with decades of training. He is a Ukrainian drone operator who, from the comfort of a secure command post that Russia cannot reach, hunted down and killed 2 of the Kremlin's most feared weapons before they had any chance of threatening a single Ukrainian civilian. This is not a one-off story. This is the signal of a complete transformation in how drone warfare is being fought and, more importantly, how it is being stopped. The record-breaking 500-kilometer intercept by the Bulava unit is part of a massive surge in Ukrainian air defense efficiency documented throughout early 2026. This 500-kilometer interception range fundamentally redefines the operational envelope for drone warfare, pushing beyond the line-of-sight or short-range control paradigms that have historically limited unmanned aerial systems. It suggests a future where defensive assets can project power across vast distances without exposing human operators to direct risk, a strategic leap that challenges conventional notions of air superiority. In March alone, Kyiv's forces destroyed over 2,300 aerial targets, a 55% increase compared to February, driven by the rapid scaling of low-cost interceptor drones and AI-assisted guidance systems. 55% more kills in a single month. While Russia was busy scaling up its Shahed production lines and celebrating what it thought was an unstoppable aerial campaign, Ukraine's drone hunters were quietly rewriting the rules of the game from the ground up. To understand why this matters so much, you have to understand the problem Ukraine was facing before any of this happened. Russia's Shahed campaign had become a grinding, relentless nightmare. Russia has deployed over 57,000 Shahed and Goran 2 variants against Ukraine since first employing the system in 2022. Monthly production is now estimated at approximately 3,000 Shahed-class units by late 2025, according to the Institute for the Study of War and Ukrainian Intelligence Assessments. Ukrainian Commander-in-Chief Oleksandr Syrskyi cited a higher figure of 404 drones per day, roughly 12,000 per month, though this likely includes all Russian drone types. Think about that number. 404 drones rolling off Russian production lines every single day. That is not a weapon. That is a conveyor belt of terror. And Russia had calculated its strategy with brutal economic logic. Each Shahed costs between $20,000 and $50,000 to produce. Each conventional air defense missile Ukraine uses to shoot one down can cost up to $1 million. Russia tolerated high loss rates, often losing more than 75% of its drones, in an effort to gradually overwhelm Ukrainian air defenses. In other words, Russia was knowingly sending thousands of cheap drones to their deaths because every time Ukraine fired an expensive interceptor missile, Moscow was winning the economic war, even when it was losing the aerial one. Ukraine's shoot-down rate of Russian air attacks has been climbing consistently since December, even as Russia sends increasing numbers of drones and missiles. The Ministry of Defense posted an interception success rate of 89.9% for March, compared to 85.6% in February, 82.5% in January, and 80.2% in December. That is a 9.7 percentage point increase in 3 months. But even 89.9% was not good enough. Ukraine stated its own goal clearly. The Ukrainian Ministry of Defense stated that the goal is to identify 100% of aerial threats in real time and intercept at least 95% of missiles and drones. 95%. And the interceptor drone is the weapon they chose to close that gap. Because the math of using cheap drones to kill cheap drones, instead of burning through million-dollar missiles to swat down $30,000 targets, is so overwhelmingly logical that the only surprise is that it took this long for the world to fully understand what Ukraine had figured out. A $2,000 interceptor drone killing a $50,000 Shahed. Every single engagement, Ukraine is saving tens of thousands of dollars. Every single engagement, Russia is losing not just hardware, but the economic rationale behind the entire campaign. Now, the question I want you to sit with as we go through this video is this. Russia is producing 404 drones per day, has expanded its production capacity, and is now developing jet-powered variants that fly at 600 kilometers per hour. Ukraine is building cheap interceptors that achieve a 95% success rate per sortie and have now demonstrated the ability to operate at 500 kilometers from the operator. Which side is actually winning this technological arms race right now? Because the answer, when you look at the full picture, is far more decisive than any headline has yet acknowledged, and the details behind it will change how you think about the future of air defense entirely. Let me take you inside exactly how that April 4th intercept happened, because the technical details are the story. And when you understand the engineering behind it, you will understand why Russia has no immediate answer to what Ukraine has built. The Sting interceptor is made by an organization called Wild Hornets, known in Ukrainian as Diiki Shersny. And here is the first thing you need to know about them that almost no mainstream outlet has bothered to mention. Wild Hornets describes itself as a non-profit rather than a company, and depends on private donations instead of state funding. Let that settle in for a second. The drone unit that just rewrote the record books for long-range aerial interception is not a billion-dollar defense contractor. It is not a Pentagon program that took a decade of procurement cycles and congressional hearings to produce. It is a volunteer charitable organization started by engineers in 2023, funded by donations, operating out of workshops in Ukraine while Russian missiles fly overhead. And they have built something that the most sophisticated military-industrial complexes on Earth have not yet matched. The fact that a non-profit, volunteer-driven organization is pioneering such advanced defense technology is a stark departure from traditional military innovation models, which typically rely on massive state funding and established defense contractors. This grassroots approach highlights a unique agility and responsiveness, demonstrating how necessity can foster breakthroughs that outpace even the most well-resourced conventional systems. The Sting is a specialized bullet-shaped interceptor drone specifically engineered to outrun and ram Shahed suicide drones. It can reach speeds exceeding 340 kilometers per hour and operate at altitudes of up to 3 kilometers. Its effectiveness is amplified by Hornet Vision Control, a digital video and telemetry system that provides high-definition video and low-latency control over massive distances, effectively turning small FPV-style interceptors into long-range air defense assets. The key innovation here is not the drone itself. The Sting's airframe, at its price point of roughly $1,000 to $5,000 per unit, depending on optics, is impressive, but not magical. What is revolutionary is the Hornet Vision Control System. This is the technology that compressed the gap between operator and battlefield from a standard 20 to 30 kilometers all the way to 500 kilometers on April 4th, and then further still. On April 17th, Wild Hornets demonstrated what it called a record-breaking launch of an interceptor drone over 2,000 kilometers, with the operator based in northern Ukraine, while the drone operated in a completely different location. 2,000 kilometers. The operator was essentially sitting in one country, guiding a drone fighting in another. And this is not a laboratory demonstration. Wild Hornets stated clearly that mass deployment of Hornet Vision Control has already begun. Wild Hornets said, "Hornet Vision Control underwent combat testing on the front line for several months, and we have effective results from its use. We have already begun mass deployment of Hornet Vision Control technology, and very soon, a large number of kits will be sent to the front. This will make it possible for effective crews to control much larger areas of the front line. Instead of 20 kilometers, up to 100. One crew, 100 kilometers of airspace coverage. Previously, a crew could monitor and protect a radius of 20 to 30 kilometers around their position. Now, that same crew with the same drone can cover an area 5 times larger while sitting in a protected underground command post that Russia's drones cannot reach. The multiplication of effective coverage per crew is strategically enormous. It means Ukraine does not just need more drones, it needs smarter deployment of the drones it already has. Now let me tell you about the man behind the April 4th record, because his story captures something important about how this war is being fought at the human level. Roman Hulk of the Bulava unit reportedly destroyed 20 Shahed drones in a single day in late March 2026. Overall, since November 2025, the Bulava unit has downed more than 200 drones, including 184 Shaheds. Their single-day record stands at 20 kills, with 17 of those taken out in just an hour and a half. Hulk described in an exclusive interview with Army Media what that pressure actually feels like from inside the cockpit, if you can call it that. He explained that around 90% of the unit's successful engagements involve detonating the Shahed's warhead in the air, ensuring that at most only the engine reaches the ground. Because even in the moment of victory, these pilots are thinking about the civilians below. He said, "A Shahed might not detonate. It could fall and hit someone or a house. That's why we also try to let it pass populated areas before engaging." And when asked whether he feels like a superhero doing this job, his answer was unfiltered. "Yes, because I understand that the lives of many civilians depend on me and my brothers, on our actions and results. That's what motivates you. That's what makes you love your job." The Bulava unit has also confirmed something that defense analysts have been tracking with close attention. Russia, having noticed how effective the Sting interceptors are becoming, has started adapting its own Shahed drones in response. Operators from the Bulava unit noted that cases where the enemy directly controls Shahed drones in an FPV-like mode are no longer uncommon. These long-range drones are now equipped with rear-view cameras, allowing Russian operators to detect approaching interceptor drones. Although the enemy attempts evasive maneuvers, Ukrainian interceptor drones, including the Sting, offer significantly superior maneuverability. Russia is putting cameras on its Shaheds to watch for interceptors coming up behind them. Think about what that means. A weapon system designed as a one-way loitering munition, essentially a kamikaze drone, is now being given rear-view cameras and manual override capability, so its operator can try to dodge the Sting that is hunting it. Russia's Shaheds are running from Ukrainian drones. The prey has started looking over its shoulder. Production of Sting interceptors has expanded significantly, with output reported at over 10,000 units per month. 10,000 Stings per month, at a price range of $1,000 to $5,000 each, against Russia's Shaheds, which cost $20,000 to $50,000 each, and are being produced at roughly $12,000 per month across all variants. The economic equation is moving decisively in Ukraine's favor, and the Sting, as formidable as it has proven, is just one weapon in a rapidly expanding arsenal that, when you see the full picture, starts to look less like a defense network and more like an air supremacy campaign conducted entirely without jet fighters. The Sting and Roman Hulk grab the headlines, and rightly so. But if you stop the story there, you miss the bigger picture entirely. Because what Ukraine has built is not a single wonder weapon. It is an ecosystem, a layered, interlocking, constantly evolving network of interceptor platforms that approaches the drone threat from multiple directions simultaneously. From the ground, from the air, and now, as of April 2026, from the sea. And the speed at which this ecosystem is expanding is unlike anything the modern defense industry has produced outside of a world war. Let us start with this P-1 Sun, made by a Ukrainian company called Skyfall. This drone gets far less international coverage than the Sting, which is a serious oversight, because in terms of raw production numbers, it may be the most consequential interceptor Ukraine has deployed. At a unit price of approximately $1,000, it is one of the cheapest effective interceptors currently in operational service anywhere in the world. A Ukrainian Antonov An-2 transport aircraft was modified with 3 hardpoints on each wing, allowing up to 6 P-1 Sun interceptors per sortie. Skyfall claims to be capable of producing up to 50,000 P-1 Sun units every month from a single manufacturer, and the results are already showing up in verified kill counts. Hanna Vostar, advisor to Ukrainian Defense Minister Mikhailo Fedorov, disclosed at the European Business Summit that P-1 and Sun interceptors have downed more than 3,000 Russian Shaheds in 2026 alone. 3,000 confirmed Shahed kills from one interceptor model in the first 4 months of 2026. That is not a weapons program. That is an industrial-scale aerial extermination campaign. And then there is the An-28 platform itself, which deserves its own moment of attention, because it represents one of the most creative bits of military improvisation to emerge from this entire conflict. Ukraine officially started using light aircraft to fight Shaheds in 2025. The An-28 is a short-range airliner whose maiden flight was in 1969. Pressed into Ukrainian military service, the venerable plane has been downing Shaheds. A former aviation test engineer at the Antonov Design Bureau explained the logic simply. The drone interceptor doesn't have to waste energy to get off the ground, and from up there you can see all the shots. A 56-year-old Soviet-era turboprop, originally designed to carry passengers on rural routes, converted into a drone-hunting aircraft carrier. The crew visually acquires targets from altitude, then releases P-1 Sun interceptors at standoff distance, allowing the interceptors to close and destroy Shaheds while the An-28 remains well clear. It already carried more than 150 confirmed Shahed kills from its earlier direct-fire configuration, using a door-mounted minigun. Now it has become a flying interceptor launch platform. Ukraine turned a relic of the Soviet Union into one of Russia's worst nightmares, using nothing more than 6 hardpoints and a rack of $1,000 drones. Now let us talk about the Jedi Shahed Hunter, because this one represents a fundamentally different design philosophy from the Sting and the P-1 Sun. And its arrival in March 2026 marked an important step in Ukraine's shift from improvised counter-drone tactics to fully institutionalized air defense doctrine. On March 23, 2026, Ukraine's Ministry of Defense announced that the Jedi Shahed Hunter had been authorized for operational use. It is a vertical takeoff quadrotor weighing just over 4 kilograms, carries up to 500 grams of explosive payload, exceeds 350 kilometers per hour, reaches altitudes of up to 6 kilometers, and can defend airspace within a radius of up to 40 kilometers. Where the Sting is a bullet-shaped sprint racer guided by a human pilot who hunts visually, the Jedi is a radar-cued autonomous interceptor. Data from radar systems are automatically transmitted to the Jedi Shahed Hunter, enabling it to enter engagement zones quickly and engage targets promptly. The drone can autonomously detect, follow, and strike aerial targets. A human operator manages flight coordination and targeting authorization, but once the Jedi has acquired its prey, it can close and kill without further input. And it is not limited to Shaheds. The system can also target reconnaissance UAVs, including Zala and Supercam platforms. That matters enormously because Russian reconnaissance drones are the eyes that feed artillery targeting data to the front. Blinding those eyes disrupts the entire Russian kill chain, not just the incoming strike drones. Just 10 days after the Jedi was authorized, on April 2nd, Ukraine's Ministry of Defense authorized yet another interceptor, the Shvedun, a fixed-wing platform weighing 8 kilograms with a 2-meter wingspan, speeds above 250 kilometers per hour, and an endurance exceeding 2 hours. 2 hours of continuous airborne operation for an interceptor. Compared to the Jedi's approximately 12 minutes and the Sting's 15 minutes, the Shvedun trades raw speed for persistent coverage, allowing it to loiter in an intercept zone and engage multiple threats across a sustained engagement window. Ukraine is not building one solution. It is building an entire family of solutions, each optimized for a different slice of the threat environment. And then on April 19, 2026, something happened that stopped defense analysts in their tracks. Ukraine's Unmanned Systems Forces reported on April 19th that operators from the Unmanned Surface Vessel Division of the 412th Brigade Nemesis successfully engaged and destroyed a Russian loitering munition in a maritime operational zone. The Unmanned Systems Forces described the operation as the first instance in modern warfare of an aerial threat being intercepted by a drone launched from a sea-based unmanned platform. A crewless boat operating autonomously in the Black Sea launched an interceptor drone that hunted down and destroyed an incoming Shahed before it could reach the Ukrainian coastline. The strategic logic is straightforward. Russia has routed Shahed attacks against southeastern Ukrainian cities, including Odessa, over the Black Sea, exploiting Ukraine's lack of conventional naval power to limit interception opportunities over water. A USV-based interceptor layer pushes the engagement zone seaward, allowing threats to be destroyed before reaching the coastline. Russia had been using the Black Sea as a free approach corridor for Shahed attacks on Odessa and other coastal cities. Knowing that Ukraine had limited naval capability to contest that airspace over water, Ukraine just closed that corridor. It extended its intercept perimeter beyond the coastline by deploying floating unmanned platforms that carry their own interceptors and can be pre-positioned along the most likely Shahed approach routes. An advisor on Russian military technology at the US-based Center for Naval Analyses told Breaking Defense, "This capability adds another protection layer for Ukrainians against incoming Russian long-range drones. Based on available open-source data, Russia has yet to achieve anything similar." This statement from a US defense think tank analyst is particularly revealing, as it highlights a significant technological asymmetry where Ukraine, despite being the defender, is innovating faster in specific domains than its adversary. It underscores a strategic failure on Russia's part to anticipate and counter these novel defensive measures, suggesting a deeper systemic issue in its military-industrial complex's adaptability. What does all of this look like when you add it together? By April 30th, 2026, Ukraine's Air Force confirmed it had over 300 interceptor crews operational across the country, with the most experienced units achieving individual Shahed kill tallies measured in the hundreds. During Russia's attack on April 30th, interceptor drones alone accounted for 50% of all Russian UAVs shot down. Half of all drones destroyed that night were killed, not by expensive missile systems, not by F-16s, not by Patriot batteries, but by cheap, domestically produced, volunteer-built Ukrainian interceptors. The economics of this war are being rewritten engagement by engagement. So Russia knows all of this is happening. Putin's generals are watching the intercept rates climb every single month. They are watching their Shaheds get picked off by drones that cost a fraction of the price. They're watching Ukraine's kill counts go from 80% to 83% to 86% to nearly 90% in the space of just 3 months. And their response, rather than accepting that the drone saturation strategy is losing its economic logic, has been to double down, to produce more, to go faster, to go bigger. And in doing so, they have revealed something important about the strategic trap Russia has built for itself in this war. Russia currently manufactures 404 Shahed-type drones of various configurations every day, a figure that substantially exceeds earlier estimates from Western intelligence sources. This daily output includes the propeller-driven Garan 1 and Garan 2 variants, the faster, jet-powered Garan 3, and cheaper decoy variants called Kerberos. And it is not stopping there. Russia is scaling Shahed drone manufacturing from 404 units daily to a planned 1,000 per day, enabling unprecedented saturation attacks against Ukrainian infrastructure and cities. 1,000 drones per day, 30,000 per month. If Russia achieves that production target, it would represent one of the most intensive drone manufacturing campaigns in military history, exceeding the production rates of most conventional air weapon systems during the Second World War, adjusted for equivalent complexity. And Russia is not doing this out of confidence. It is doing it out of desperation. Because the saturation strategy is the last major offensive tool the Kremlin has left that is producing any meaningful results at all, Russia's tanks have proven unable to penetrate Ukraine's fortified frontline positions. Armored vehicles have been destroyed in their thousands by mines, rockets, and kamikaze UAVs. Suicidal assault squads, comprising 15 to 20 undertrained recruits, continue to have almost zero impact in terms of gaining valuable ground. Drones cause more casualties in Ukraine than any other Russian weapon, and have allowed Russia to damage Ukrainian infrastructure, including substations and logistics hubs. Drones are not Russia's preferred weapon. They are Russia's only remaining weapon that is working at all, which is precisely why the Kremlin is pouring so much money into the Alabuga production complex and its satellite facilities. It has no choice. But Russia is not standing completely still on the technical side either. And this is the part of the story that demands honest assessment. Moscow has started production of a jet-powered variant of the Shahed, the Garan 3, which has a range of 2,500 kilometers and can travel at speeds up to 550 to 600 kilometers per hour, making it significantly harder to intercept. There are also reports that China is manufacturing Harpy 3 drones for Russia, which have a 2,000-kilometer range with a 50-kilogram payload. The Garan 3 is a genuine engineering challenge for Ukraine's interceptors. At 600 kilometers per hour, it is roughly 4 times faster than a standard propeller-driven Shahed. The Bulava unit has confirmed successfully intercepting at least one jet-powered Shahed variant, but doing so consistently at scale, against potentially thousands per month, is a different order of difficulty. The jet-powered Garan 3 variant features jamming-resistant satellite navigation using 12-element adaptive antenna arrays. Russia is hardening its guidance systems against Ukraine's electronic warfare. The arms race is real, and it is accelerating on both sides simultaneously. This is where Ukraine's international partnerships are becoming strategically decisive in ways that most coverage has not yet fully appreciated. Ukraine has dispatched drone interceptors and military personnel to Jordan as Middle Eastern countries fend off Iranian strikes during the US-Israel war on Tehran. President Volodymyr Zelensky confirmed a Ukrainian team departed for Jordan, which has US military assets at its Muwafaq Salti air base. The move followed a direct request from the US as Washington seeks cheaper technology for intercepting Iranian missiles targeting Israeli and US defense assets across Qatar, Kuwait, Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE. Zelensky's statement when confirming this deployment was measured but pointed. He wrote that Ukrainians have been fighting against Shahed drones for years, and that no other country in the world has this kind of experience, adding that Ukraine is ready to help. This is a country that has been fighting for survival since February 2022, now being asked by the United States of America to deploy its counter-drone expertise to protect American military assets in the Middle East. That is not just a military development. That is a complete inversion of the typical donor-recipient dynamic that has defined Ukraine's relationship with the West throughout this war. On March 12th, the Wall Street Journal reported that Saudi oil giant Saudi Aramco was in talks with at least 2 Ukrainian companies about buying interceptor drones to protect its oil fields from Iranian attacks. Saudi Aramco, one of the wealthiest energy companies on Earth, with access to every major defense contractor in the United States and Europe, is in talks to buy drones from Ukrainian volunteer engineers, because the Ukrainian product works better against the specific threat those engineers are actually facing. Ukraine did not plan to become the world's leading counter-drone power. It was forced to become one, and now the world is coming to buy what necessity forced it to build. Ukraine's goal is to destroy at least 95% of all incoming weapons. As of April 30th, with interceptor drones accounting for half of all kills during mass attacks, with the Sting operating at 500 kilometers and beyond, with the Jedi radar queued and autonomous, with the P-1 Sun eliminating over 3,000 Shaheds in 4 months alone, with unmanned naval vessels launching interceptors over the Black Sea, Ukraine is closing in on that target from multiple directions simultaneously. Each new platform adds a layer. Each new layer narrows the gap. And the economics remain overwhelmingly in Ukraine's favor at every altitude and every range. Here is the implication worth sitting with as this story continues to develop. Russia is planning to produce 1,000 drones per day. Ukraine is developing interceptors that cost $1,000 each, operate at 95% success rates, and can now be controlled from 2,000 kilometers away by a single pilot sitting safely outside the country. The growing role of low-cost interceptor UAVs appears increasingly important in countering mass Shahed-type attacks, potentially reducing reliance on expensive surface-to-air missile systems and fundamentally shifting the economics of air defense for the first time in decades. For the first time in decades, that is not language defense analysts use lightly. Interceptor drones are not a niche solution or a temporary workaround. They are the beginning of a structural shift in how nations defend their airspace. And Ukraine, the country that was supposed to be on its knees by now, according to Moscow's 2022 calculations, is the country that pioneered it under fire, with volunteer engineers on donations.